Okay, I think we're ready to begin, and let's review and we'll practice what we've learned in our first lesson. So every sentence can be written in three forms. Affirmative, we can mark that as a plus. We will get to know each other. We could always make it negative, saying something that's not true about the world. We will not get to know each other this semester. And we can always make a yes/no question. Will we get to know each other this semester? So let's take a look at we have 7 sentences. Please take a look and stop the video and change each of the following sentences into its other 2 forms. So when you're done, you should have 1 affirmative, 1 negative, and 1 yes/no question. Okay, so go ahead, do that, stop the video, and when you're done, come back and we'll take a look at these sentences together. So let's take a look at the first one. The first one is affirmative. Language began approximately 150,000 years ago, and that's true actually, that's what's believed. Let's change it to negative. Language did not begin, and I'm going to write everything out. I'm not going to make any contractions like didn't or aren't, and we'll just write everything out. Language did not begin, and then to make a yes or no question, we can say, did language begin 150,000 years ago? So far, so good? Okay, let's continue. Let me see what's going on with my autofocus, and I hope that'll settle down. Okay, I hope that's good now. Let's take a look at number 2. The dropping of the larynx in the throat allows humans to speak. This is an affirmative sentence. Let's change it to negative. The dropping of the larynx, it's always a hard word for me to pronounce, in the throat, does not allow humans to speak. Let's make it a yes or no question. Does the dropping of the larynx in the throat allow humans to speak? There's my yes or no question. Okay, let's go on. Number 3. The human brain has undergone changes in conjunction with language. Okay, that's affirmative. Let's make it negative. The human brain has not undergone changes in conjunction with language. And then let's change it to a yes or no question. Has the human brain undergone changes in conjunction with language? Number 4. Our brain was significantly different 1,000,000 years ago. This is an affirmative sentence. It's telling us something true. Let's change it to negative. Our brain was not significantly different 1,000,000 years ago. We're going to get a lot of writing practice doing these exercises. And then let's change to a yes or no question. Was our brain significantly different a million years ago? Number 5, language is not a cultural invention. Now let me tone down the brightness. I think it's a little bit too bright here. Language is not a cultural invention. That's negative to begin with. So let's change it to affirmative. Language is a cultural invention. And then we'll change it to a yes or no question. Is language a cultural invention? Number 6, you and I shall have an enjoyable time looking at language together, telling us something true. It's affirmative. Let's change it to negative. And this is not true. You and I shall not have an enjoyable time looking at language together. And finally, the yes-no question. Shall you and I have an enjoyable time looking at language together? Okay, so far so good. And our last one. Many California universities offer linguistics programs. Affirmative. Let's change to negative. Do many California universities offer linguistics programs? Oops, that's our yes-no question. I think I was daydreaming here. Yes-no question. And then our negative sentence, many California universities do not offer linguistics programs. Okay, so far so good, I hope. If you have any questions, now's a good time to talk about it, ask, and then we can continue. Part 2, yes-no questions in negative sentences always contain an X word. We've said that before in our first lesson. And we've also mentioned that there are 20 X words in English. So stop the video and write the 20 X words, and when you're ready, come back and we'll take a look at them together. Here's our 20 X words. Am, are, and is, was, and were, have, has, and had, do, does, and did, may, and might, can, and could, will, and would, must, should, shall, and let me just count them, 5, 8, 11, 13, 15, 17, 20. There's our 20 X words. Now, every sentence has 2 X word places, and we've seen that. In written English, all the yes-no questions and negative sentences contain an X word, but not all affirmative sentences contain an X word. Nevertheless, it doesn't matter if a sentence has an X word or doesn't or has one. The important thing is we're talking about places. The two X word places exist in every sentence. So let me show you what I mean. In the affirmative sentence we talked on the phone last week, I don't see any X words. But are there any X word places? The answer is yes, because we can change affirmative to negative by adding the X word did together with not. We did not talk on the phone last week. We can also change the affirmative sentence into a yes or no question by placing the X word here at the beginning. Did we talk on the phone last week? You know, this shows me that in the affirmative sentence, there is one X word place here where we put the X word to make a question, and there is one X word over here where we put the X word to make a negative sentence. Now, let me show you in another sentence. This time, we have an X word in the affirmative, negative, and yes/no forms. So, for example, our conversation was about the weather. Our conversation was not about the weather. Was our conversation about the weather? And so each of these forms, each sentence has an X word visible in its place. The first sentence didn't, but there's still the two X word places are there. And we'll get used to this idea. Okay, so let's continue on the next page, page 4. It's your turn. So please stop the video and go back and mark the two X word places in sentences 1 to 7 above, and then come back, start the video, and we'll take a look at them together. Okay, welcome back, and let's take a look here. Language began approximately 150,000 years ago. So here is the X word did. Here's another X word did in the question. And so I see that here's one place to put the X word in front of language, and the second place is after language. This sentence has these two X word places. Let's take a look, number 2. The dropping of the larynx in the throat. Okay, so I don't see any X words in the affirmative, but when I made it negative, the X word does comes over here after throat, and the X word does is placed at the beginning to make the question. So it means there's one X word place in front of the, and one X word place after throat. Let's take a look at number 2. Number 3, the human brain has undergone changes. Now this one has the affirmative, it has the X word has, the negative, the X word has, and the yes/no question begins with the X word have. So there's one X word place here in front of the, and the other X word place, an X word, is here after brain. Our brain was significantly different. Was not, was our brain. Here's one X word place, and here's the other. Language is not a cultural invention. Is language. So here's our two X word places. Number 6, you and I shall have an enjoyable time. Shall is the X word. Shall is the X word. Shall you and I? So one X word place here and one before you. And sentence number 7, go back down. Many California universities offer. Do many California universities offer? So here's one X word place. Excuse me. Many California universities do not offer. second X word place. Okay. If you have any questions, definitely stop, talk a little bit about it. Okay. Now, we're over here, part 4. The subject of an English sentence is between the two X word places. And this is what we've been getting ready for. We're building up to this. Many people studying grammar for the first time get perplexed. I don't see any X words here in this sentence. But when I take a look at the negative, I see many people studying grammar for the first time do not get perplexed. And in my yes or no question, do many people studying grammar? The subject of a sentence is between the two X word places. Here's my places. So here is my subject. Just like that. This is such an incredible thing because it's always true. That's what's so amazing about English. You'll see that we can say so many things that are true about the language because all too often when you're learning about English, you learn about all the exceptions, and when you focus on exceptions, you kind of miss the main idea that language has to be very regular so that people can use it and understand each other. That's an important fact. So please, stop the video, go back and label the subject, draw a box around the subject in the first 7 sentences above. When you're done, come back and we'll take a look at it together. Okay, let's take a look at our subjects. X word, language is the subject. The dropping of the larynx in the throat, X word, subject. Nothing to even figure out. The human brain has undergone changes, X word place, X word. Human brain is the subject. Our brain was our brain, X word. Our brain is the subject. Language is not a cultural invention, X word place. Subject, you and I shall have an enjoyable time looking at language, and we really will. You and I is the subject. And last, many California universities offer linguistics programs. X word place, between the two X word places is the subject of the sentence. Okie dokie. Let's see what we got here. Now I think we can just run through this all at one time. So stop the video and find, number 1, find the two X word places in each sentence. Draw a box around the subject. And when you're done, come back. And if you want, you can change to all 3 forms, or you can just make the other 2 forms, and that'll help you, just say them, and that'll help you find the X word places. I'll be back. I'll wait for you. A good burger, number 1, can cost $6. Now I could ask the question, can a good burger cost $6? A good burger is the subject. MPC has lots of dance classes, and very often many people say, oh, has is the X word, because I know there is an X word, has. But in American English, when we have only this has or have, it's not really the X word, because we need to add the X word. For example, does MPC have lots of dance classes? MPC does not have lots of dance classes, and so actually MPC is the subject and does would be the X word in this sentence. British English sometimes they do say, has MPC lots of dance classes? But American English doesn't do that. We use does or do or did. Our class should go well. Should our class go well? And so between the two X words is the subject. Next one. Oh, these papers are so sticky. Okay, let's take a look. Number 4. Now, Ling 10, and that's the name of a class I teach at my college where I teach this grammar. Ling 10 started about 5 years ago, so I don't see the X word. I'd ask, did Ling 10 start about 5 years ago? I could make it negative to find my other X word place. Ling 10 did not start, and so Ling 10 is the subject. Have I been talking too much? X word. I have been talking too much. There's my other X word place. I is the subject. We will not begin any other new topics this week. And then, will we begin? X word, subject is me, we. And last one, I hope. I do not hope. Do I hope? I is the subject. There, we're done. That's the end of our classwork for the lesson number 1. And we'll get back together again for lesson number 2. So go ahead, do what you have to do, and I'll see you later.